What's up, painting friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stoof, and today we're going to do a different video. This is not a tutorial, but it is a review of Liquitex heavy-bodied acrylic paints. These are professional quality, professional grade, heavy-bodied acrylics. So what does that mean? It means that they're very thick and they're not runny, so they hold texture very well. They're highly pigmented, and I'm assuming they're going to be very opaque as well, and not translucent or see-through or anything like that. I think that these are going to be very good quality paints. However, I'm not sure they're the best paints for my style of painting. So if you guys see, what I typically like to do professionally as an artist is create realism style oil paintings. But if you looked at my video a couple weeks ago, I am going to be leaving my studio and moving into a travel trailer and traveling the United States for a year, visiting all of the US national parks and doing lots of plein air painting and travel painting in my tiny little workspace in the travel trailer. So I am going to be switching to using more acrylic paints, as I mentioned in that video. So I'm starting to dabble in different brands and different products and just try to find the best one before I go on this trip, so that I can get the best quality product for my clients and a paint that I like to work with. So I researched the difference between these and other brands and other types of acrylic paint after I bought this one, but I'm still gonna keep this one unless it's like absolutely terrible quality, which I don't expect at all. I do expect it to be good quality. I just don't know if it's gonna be the best for my style of painting. Because these are thick paints and I typically work with like very thinned down oil paint to get nice, thin, very sharp lines and intricate detail in my type of painting. I don't think I'm gonna be able to achieve that with these paints. And then of course, like I just mentioned, I researched the other types of acrylic paint after I bought this set. So Liquitex actually makes a soft-bodied acrylic paint set in professional quality. So I think that's gonna be the better route for me to take, but I'm gonna try these ones out first, and maybe I will order the soft-bodied acrylics later. But the difference between heavy body and soft body is that there is a higher viscosity with these guys here. So these have higher viscosity, so they're thicker. The soft-bodied acrylics have a lower viscosity, so they're easier to manipulate, and you can just move the paint a little bit with a little more control and get finer detail. At least that's what I'm expecting. But the pigment amount does not change between this and the soft-bodied acrylics according to Liquitex. The soft-bodied acrylics still have a very rich, heavy packed pigment in the paints, so the color quality should not decrease between the heavy body and the soft body, as long as you're getting Liquitex brand and it still says professional grade heavy body or professional grade soft body. So I will leave a link to this in my description below this video if you would like to purchase these yourself. I paid $80 for this set. However, I just looked on Amazon and the price went down, of course. So right now, as of August 6th, 2020, the price for this on Amazon is $66 US dollars. So if you would like to grab this for yourself, if you're a professional, or if you just want to work with professional quality paints, this is what I recommend. Well, I don't recommend it yet. But first, let's take a look at these and we'll put them on my palette, and we're gonna make a painting with these, and let's get a good review going of my thoughts of this paint. I'm going to be judging the pigment, the viscosity, the texture, I guess, like of how it goes onto the canvas, also the opacity. So like, is the yellow going to be really translucent? Because sometimes you get that with acrylic paints. All right, guys, let's get some colors out here. So this is Yellow Light Hansa. Yeah, that's pretty heavy bodied, I would say. It does look like it has a little bit more opacity in it as well for the yellow. We've got Naphthol Red Light, which looks like a really warm red. These colors are new to me too. I've never used these color names before. Yep, that's a nice warm red. This one I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but it's magenta. Oh, that's a pretty one. I like that color a lot. This is dioxazine purple, which I do have that one in my oils. Phthalo blue, which is a good one. Often use that color for sky and for the water as well. This is brilliant blue, which looks like it's going to be like a nice, also a nice sky color, or maybe for water as well. This one's emerald green. Let's see how this one looks, because in the Arteza set, the emerald green is like, oh, that's not bad. That's pretty true to what I expected. In the Arteza set, the emerald green is like more like neon looking than that, I guess you could say. And it's just like completely unnatural color, but that looks a little closer to the natural spectrum. If you mix some brown in there, I bet it'll look more like a natural green. This guy is phthalo green, which is my favorite color. Let's see how that looks. Good, that looks great. That's exactly what I expected. This is bronze yellow, which to me looks like a gold or like a yellow ochre-y color. Yep, pretty close. It's like a little bit darker than yellow ochre. Ivory black. And these guys are so smart. They give you 2 packs of titanium white because everybody goes through a ton of white. So I am very proud of them for giving you 2 whites and not giving you 1 little white, because a lot of beginner kits, well, I guess this isn't a beginner kit, maybe that's why, but a lot of painting kits give you 1 tiny little tube of white paint, like that's all you're gonna need. You're like, actually, I use twice as much white as every other color. All right, so here are the colors on our little palette. They look pretty good, like for that thickness. I mean, that's pretty similar to what my oils look like, consistency-wise. The only issue is that when I can thin down my oils, it doesn't really lose the pigment as much. But when I thin down these, it's definitely going to reduce the pigment. It's going to make it more translucent. So there we are. Now we have our little 8 by 10 inch canvas here. We're going to do a painting of a butterfly. All right, guys, so to help with the comparison here, I am gonna put some other brands and different types of acrylic paints on here as well. So this is Arteza's Carmine Red. Just gonna put that back here. And we're also gonna be using some of our Liquitex basics, which Liquitex doesn't advertise this on their website, but I'm assuming that the pigment to filler ratio is very different for this guy. I'm assuming the filler is, there's more filler than pigment. And the nice thing about these basics though is that they are more budget friendly. They're still pretty thick consistency wise, like they're not super thin, so it's not too different from that. We are also going to, I'm just gonna add some white from the basics set just to compare this versus the heavy bodied white. If I could open it. There we go. Let's add a little bit of this basics magenta too. It's a lighter version of, of magenta. And I also want to compare, here's yellow ochre, and this was their bronze yellow. So I just want to compare these 2 colors as well. Okay, so yes, Arteza's version of yellow ochre is a little bit warmer and lighter in value than the bronze yellow. And then let's just compare it to another heavy bodied acrylic. So these are Goldens. These are like really expensive compared to the Liquitex ones. Let's just put these right here. This is green gold. Also, this paint tube is from 2012 and it's still in perfect condition. So that has something to say about the price. It's definitely worth it for the Goldens. They're still great quality paints. Alrighty, you ready to get started? So I'm gonna start with just dipping my brush in the water there just to thin the paint down a bit to sketch out the concept. And we'll just start with a little phthalo blue. Just get it really thin. The pigment doesn't have to be too strong here because I'm just sketching out the scene. Got the body. Even watering down this paint, it still feels more pigmented than when I water down my basics Liquitex paints. All right, so now I got a general quick sketch just by watering down the acrylic paints, and so far so good. I am seeing a much better quality in this pigment compared to the Basics brand of Liquitex. So like the Basics is like the non-professional level. The pigment just carries so much better when I'm sketching it out. It seems like if I use the Basics level paint and I try to water it down and carry out the pigment, it just like runs clear after a brush stroke. So this is good. The pigment definitely carries better. So now we're going to fill in the background, and then I'll fill in the butterfly next, so we can get a good test of the quality of these pigments and paints when I'm applying them a little bit more thickly. So I'm just going to use a flat tipped brush here and start to fill in some of the shadows and then start brightening things up as I go. We'll see how long these take to dry in comparison to some of my other acrylic paints as well. I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm assuming they take a little bit longer to dry, but I guess we'll see. So let's do a little color blend test here. Let's blend our phthalo blue with phthalo green and emerald green and that bronze yellow. All right, so the green, that green is strong pigmented. Let's add a little magenta to that to cool that down. Magenta is also very strongly pigmented. Okay. Oh, you know what we don't have in this color set is a burnt umber. All right, so I'm just gonna take that color and start blocking that in. So I don't have like a crazy amount of paint on the brush here. I'm not like applying it on so thickly that it's going to give me a lot of texture, but that's pretty good. That's nice and opaque. Can't see any white through there. Here now the paint's starting to get more and more thin, and you can start to see a little bit of a difference between this and this. This is a little bit, I mean, it's still opaque, but it looks a little bit lighter because it's on that white background there. So that's good. That's what I expect. For the background purposes, this paint is great so far. For the butterfly, that's where I'm gonna start to see if it really works with my style. Add a little more phthalo blue. Let's blend in a little bit of our ultramarine blue and a little bit of that naphthol red and a little more emerald green. All right, so we got that base dark color in there, and it's starting to dry pretty quickly, I would say. Look at that. That's already dried on there. So it's actually drying relatively fast for what I expected. I expected it to, I don't know why I expected it to not dry as quickly, but maybe because it looks more like oil paint. But it's drying relatively quickly, like you would expect for acrylics. And we're gonna start to add a little bit of lighter stuff to the background here. So now one thing I will say that I just noticed here, the golden heavy body acrylic is much thicker. It's like a much higher viscosity than the Liquitex, and that could be because this golden paint is 9 years old. I haven't purchased golden acrylics in the last year to compare the current quality, but I mean, it could have just started to harden a little bit because it's been in that paint tube for so long, but the golden is thicker than the Liquitex. All right, we're just gonna start filling in some of these leaves here. So if I very, very lightly hold the brush here, you can see there is a hint of translucency with this green blend that I just made there. So if you zoom in here, you can see I painted over some of that shadow color, and then that you can see where the white is still exposed behind it. So something you could do to resolve that is just pre-color your canvas like a muted gray color, so that you don't have that bright white kind of shining through in the background. I wish that I had put some cadmium yellow medium or a cadmium yellow deep on here, because I'm kind of missing that middle color between yellow and red orange, and I will probably buy some of that color in the future if I like these paints. So far so good though. So far I do really like these. Yeah, definitely works well for dry brushing. Let's see if we water it down and just like try to thinly sketch. Yeah, that works pretty well too. And yeah, it gets a little thinner, but there's already some paint down, so it's not a huge deal for me in that situation. And another nice thing, when you use the basics or a non-professional grade acrylic paint, if you thin down the paint with water and then you try to just like paint over something that's already down, sometimes it picks up the paint that was down before and it creates this like nasty mess on your canvas. And this does not do that. It just glides right over, which is really nice. All right, now let's give our red a try here. Let's see if we just straight up use this Naphtha red light. If that, oh yeah, yep, super pigmented. Look at that, it's barely even translucent, and that's probably just because I didn't fully clean off the water from my brush. But that's really rich pigment. Wow, beautiful. And I am getting some texture here, and it's holding well. All right, so we got the background just like base color down. I'm gonna add some highlights and some shadows later, but so far so good. I really like the quality of these paints, and I think they actually work pretty well for what I'm gonna need them for. So far, I'm thinking I want to keep using these guys for professional quality acrylic paintings. How does the yellow work? All right, so you guys saw me sketch out the initial concept. I'm painting pure yellow, not watered down at all, over this sketch. So you can see the blue from the sketch is still visible under the yellow. So with oils, I don't really have this problem as much. Oil, like for some reason the yellow is a little bit more opaque with oil paint. I guess you can still see through a little bit, but compared to acrylics, I still prefer oils when using yellow. But all we gotta do for that is let that dry, and we can keep building up those layers, and then the yellow will work. However, it is very nice and bright. I will give them that. Like, that yellow is really brilliantly bright. And I'll just basically cover the whole wing here with this yellow. So yeah, the black paint's really thick, and if I thin it down without having a base color under it, then it starts to lose its opacity. So I'm trying to get a nice thick layer of this black down for the wings. And I kind of want it to blend a little bit into that yellow. One thing that I will say negatively about this set is that you don't have, I mean, and this is any set too, you don't have that full range of colors that you need. Even though they give you 12 paints, I keep feeling like I'm missing a brown and I'm missing a cadmium yellow medium or deep, and it's bothering me. I can't get the variety in the greens that I need to make this look less flat. So by adding more yellows and browns into the green, then I could get more of the colors that I need. So you need to buy more than just this set. If you're planning on using only these paints, you just got to make sure you buy individual colors that they have that aren't in the set, which I will be doing. Alright guys, this was the moment of truth that I was really waiting for here, and that was to see how this paint worked with the liner brush. And I was blown away. I watered down the paint just a little bit, and I let the pigment run with that little liner brush, just carrying that paint across to create these intricate little patterns on the butterfly's wings, and it worked exactly like my oil paints work. Usually this is my biggest frustration when I work with acrylics. I can never get detail like this. I was shocked and very pleasantly surprised that these heavy body acrylics have enough pigment in them that even when you water them down, this black keeps a straight, perfectly pigmented line. The color doesn't run out. It might run out a tiny little bit towards the end of a run with the brush stroke there, but I was very impressed with this. I could not get anywhere near this level of detail when using my other acrylic paints. So for that matter alone, I will be buying more of this heavy body acrylic paint, and this is probably going to be the product that I use. I am very, very pleased here. I'm also very impressed with the opacity of the titanium white. So here I'm using my liner brush. I thinned down this white paint a little bit and I'm gliding it over my black, and look how opaque that white paint is. It's gliding right on there, and I mean, I did a little bit more than one layer there just to like make it perfect to fix the line. But again, just very impressed. If I used one of my basics acrylic paints for this, that would be a see-through white line. It would have turned gray, or it would have not been that opaque. So yes, another very nice review about this paint. And now here we are back on the yellow part of the wings. So I'm adding my second, and in some places third, layer of yellow paint, and the wings have become much more opaque now. You can't really see the blue sketch marks anymore that were initially visible with the first layer of yellow. But I am starting to build up quite the texture with the yellow paint here. As I keep building up more and more paint, it's going to keep building up more texture. So if anyone knows of a yellow acrylic paint that is not super thick but is super opaque, let me know in the comments, because I have yet to find that. But that's really my only negative thought with this whole paint set. I'm really pleased with the level of control I can have with this acrylic paint in comparison to other acrylic paints I've used in the past. So yeah, still a very good brand. Definitely recommend it. I'm really happy with the way that this butterfly turned out, and I think if I was using the Basics brand, it would not have turned out this detailed. Those little liner brush lines would not look that nice. So definitely props to this paint for giving me this amount of control with the brush. Alright guys, here is the finished painting. I was very impressed with these acrylic paints. They have a lot of very rich pigment, and honestly, you can barely even tell the difference between this and oil paint when you look at the finished product. Really, really impressed. The color is just so vibrant, and it worked really well. As soon as I finished this, I went onto Amazon and I bought 5 more colors of this brand paint because I really, really like it, and I'm definitely going to keep using it. And I am very surprised that I was able to manipulate the details and get my liner brush to work just like it does when I'm using oil paint. It was great. So yeah, the colors that I just bought, I got sap green, cadmium yellow medium, I got burnt umber, burnt sienna, and like a sage green, like seafoam green color. So now I have a broader spectrum of colors to use, and I don't have to blend these good quality professional grade acrylic paints with my paints that don't quite have the same amount of pigment in them. So very, very pleased with these Liquitex heavy body acrylic paints. Definitely recommend that product. If you guys do want to grab some for yourself, I have that linked in the description below this video. And that's it. Thanks for sticking around and listening to my review. Yeah, have a great day and happy painting. Bye-bye.